Okay, so this is the equipment that I would be taking out for an overnight in the winter, loaded up on the bike. And this currently doesn't have a couple of things set up the way that I actually would. Like, I would actually normally tie that pad down, and that's probably getting cut down over time, but since it's new, I haven't done that yet. Um, and I also don't have water bottles in there on the bike, and haven't filled out certain things that I would, like food or filling up the water bottle that I carry in that front right pannier. And I'm going to go through all that stuff piece by piece. And this is all the clothing that I would be bringing with me. And I'm also going to go through that, as well as that piece of emergency clothing, which would be in that bag. And you'll see that when I unpack everything. And so this is the overview, and I'll go into detail of everything else now. Okay, so first it's the clothes. And this all varies depending on circumstances, of course. But first, in cold weather, essentially, like once it starts getting below about 40 degrees, I become a fan of these neoprene front leggings. And I don't have ones that have neoprene backs yet, but that would be a long-term beneficial thing, or if you're going out in cold weather a lot, probably a worthwhile investment. I like the bibs because it means that when I wear this, and whatever base layer I choose, I can actually have overlap between the bibs going up over the bottom of this. So you're never going to have a big air gap directly going in underneath your clothes as you're hunched over. And this is personally my favorite cycling base layer jersey, just because it's very comfortable. It's from, I don't remember which maker. I don't even know the brand. I think it's a performance brand. One of their soft synthetics. Pretty much any wool or synthetic base layer generally works pretty well. You can start layering them up multiple times if you need to. And then over the base layer, that bottom layer on the pants, I'll often wear a second pair of legging type things. And that's as it starts getting towards the 30, like towards the lower 30s or into 20s. And if you start getting below the 20s, you're probably going to start having the issue of needing to put some kind of wind protection on. And of course, this is all based on my own personal experience. I haven't been able to find actual detailed lists of like the polar cyclists, like the people who do the Iditarod bike races, to know what they actually use. So, by all means, there's going to be better ways to do this than what I do. But yeah, so it'd be neoprene, then these other kind of pair of fleecy kind of leggings, and then as you drop another 10 degrees, another kind of wind protection to help hold air closer to you. Over my base layer on top, I wear a cycling jacket. This particular one has breathable fabric on the back and of the arms and on the back, and that's helpful when you're trying to vent off some heat. Fortunate thing, unfortunately, you can't wear it to be too far low of a temperature. It's like you need to start layering stuff up with it, unless you're going constantly all the time, in which case you can get a little bit more away with wearing less clothes because you're going to be pumping out more heat. So that's this. And over that, a lot of times, I wear this Patagonia Nanopuff vest. And this is very nice, and it really makes a big difference when combined with this. Essentially with these two, I'm good down to the 40s, and if I'm not commuting, which is when you need a lot more warmth. You need more warmth when you're commuting because you're starting and stopping all the time. If you're just going, you can probably get away with just this down to the upper 30s. You'd want to have a wind layer to be able to put over the outside of that, just so that you are safe if you need to. And these are my socks, and I interlace these with my leggings. So this pair goes next to skin and underneath the neoprene leggings, and then the neoprene leggings of course go over the top of that and zip up over them. And then over the outside of all the pants go these thicker socks, and they just help provide an extra bit of protection. And this will keep me good for a couple hours into the 30s. Essentially, it's situation dependent, because sometimes if it's windy and wet, like it doesn't go quite down as far, but you essentially figure out what works for you base layering wise, piece by piece, and you figure out sort of like setups at 10-degree intervals. So in the same way that 70 degrees feels really different than 60, 40 degrees is quite a bit different than 30. And as you drop 10 more degrees each time, you forget that, oh yeah, it's 10 now instead of 20. And while both just feel just cold, one is far, far worse than the other. These are my thin, wind-resistant, moisture-resistant gloves that I wear. They're Manzella wind stoppers, and about $30 at REI. Very good. I can wear these down to the upper 30s by themselves and be comfortable, at least for half an hour to an hour. But I often line these over the outside of them, which is a pair of extra large REI shell gloves essentially. And these work very nicely because they provide essentially like a windbreak, an extra windbreak, an extra little shelter for my hands to be able to fit inside of. If the temperature got colder where I live, which is mid-Atlantic East Coast, then I'd be more willing to probably buy some mittens. I just haven't had the motivation and the amount of cold to have to deal with that yet. So that has not happened. And of course, my Pearl Izumi everyday commuter touring shoes, which I've greatly enjoyed over time, and that because of the lacing means that's why I don't have squished feet and cold and lack of circulation when I layer up a whole bunch of socks. And then for the top, I wear this beanie balaclava combo, and the maker of this is Seirus, and it's very comfortable. I got it at REI as well, and it's very comfortable, and it's breathable enough that you can pull the face part here, over your mouth while biking and still be able to breathe pretty well, and it doesn't hinder it very much. Unfortunately, if you try to put it over your nose, your glasses will probably fog up unless you're wearing goggles, and so that's what you end up having to deal with that. And then of course there is helmet with my brim, and my ever-present headlamp, Petzl Expedit 2, and glasses with take-a-look mirror and change outs of lenses. There's some other extra cold gear that I have that I wear and pull out if I need to. That's going to be some of the stuff that I pull out of the bags. So you're going to see that when I go through each bag. Okay, so this is essentially the front left pannier bag, which I use a Bike Packer standard classic for. Normally I would have both these sleeping bags packed up into stuff sacks, but that's just entirely a lot of work just to show you that, hey, they're 2 sleeping bags. But because I don't have winter grade sleeping bags, and I prefer not to freeze to death or be miserable while I'm trying to sleep, I just pair up 2 sleeping bags together, 2 lower grade temperature sleeping bags. This is the Montbell Ultralight Super Spiral Down Hugger 30 degree, which is very, very comfortable and quite worth it. And this is one of my wife's sleeping bags, which is a Alpine Design 20 degree rated sleeping bag, and feels like it's synthetic, but maybe it's down. I don't know this particular specs on it, but other than the fact that it is 20 degree rated and also quite comfortable into lower temperatures. And these I like to have in the front just because in the winter time, that's why I've got 4 bags, because you have more stuff that you have to carry and more things you have to worry about, because you have to make sure that you've covered contingencies that you don't have to worry about at all during warmer weather. If you get caught in something in warmer weather, whatever, who cares? But in colder weather, you could put yourself in real danger. And so hence 2 sleeping bags. And since I'm on the subject of sleep stuff, I'll just cover this as well. This is a 1/4 inch Gossamer Gear sleeping pad that I got for Christmas that I'm pairing up with my camping hammock because it helps with blocking wind and making the hammock just that much more warm and comfortable the entire way through without having to worry about possibly rolling off of the sleeping pad that I currently have and I bring with. I haven't figured out the exact amount of size that I want to cut this down to fit underneath me in the hammock without me rolling off of it, and so that's why it's still so ridiculously large. Just because you probably can't find out this otherwise, this is about how large it rolls out to. And you can't find this out on Gossamer Gear's website. And I'm about 5'8", so it gives you a perspective on the size of this. But it worked well in the camping hammock, and it helped protect me from cold spots and wind coming through. So that's those parts of things. And now on to the next bag. So in the other front pannier, what I keep, and this of course varies a bit because, you know, if you are bringing a lot of extra clothes or a lot of extra off-bike clothes, then this will be the overflow for that. Or the other front handlebar, the other front pannier would be the overflow for that, because the sleeping bag's stuffed down to probably take up less than half of the space of that pannier. Well, less than 2/3 of that space of that pannier when stuffed is my water bag, because at least where I like to winter camp, they turn off the water spigots at the campsites during winter so the pipes don't freeze. And I do not want to have to worry about running out of water overnight. Funny thing is, I have yet to have a real shortage be a problem. Essentially, this is a 6-liter bag, which if people are interested, I can do a review of at some point, but there's plenty of them around. It's the MSR Dromedary, which I'm quite pleased with. And if I weren't lazy or at time, like during winter camping, because I'm just trying to get out before it's too dark most of the time, I would just either attach this to the top of the front rack or the top of the rear rack. But I also like in winter being able to have this inside the pannier, because it just gives a little bit more time before it's going to start freezing or having crystals form. But generally what I've had been happening so far is that I go through my 3 water bottles probably during the course of the night, like before the end of the night, and come morning I'll want to have this to refill those water bottles. But even then, it's only about 2-3 liters that at most that I do. Of course, I'm not going very far on most of these winter trips just because, you know, there's only so much daylight, and I generally don't get going at the crack of dawn because most of the time I've been going after work, so it's already dark when I leave. But this is quite a good thing to have, and I'd recommend it for when you don't think that water is going to be easily available. So, handlebar bag, which is optional, or you can use a frame bag or whichever kind of preference you have, or a feeder bag in the top tube. But I like this just because it's what I'm used to. It doesn't involve me buying more things. And here I keep what I've generally talked about before, which is quick tools or piece of items I would need. Napkin, wallet, food. Well, quick food. And also quick clothes, kind of things that you might want to have to throw on quickly because you're getting colder, or if you want to take off quick layers, you want to still be able to get to them quickly. The funny thing is, just because I'm on the subject now, with food on winter biking, you start feeling really tired without realizing why. Quicker it seems like when you're out in the cold. And so it's even more important than it is normally to make sure you're bringing in calories. Stuff that you can access quickly, like stuff that you can eat that your body will absorb quickly, like sugary things, as well as stuff that takes a little bit longer, like something with a little bit longer burning carbohydrates or fats. And so that's the handlebar bag. And here is rear back roller, left-hand side one. And normally I would have a bunch of food stocked in here, but I'm just going to explain to you what I would have. The food that I would have in here would probably be along the lines of like pita bread and peanut butter, or and cheese and sausage, stuff that's not going to freeze overnight and that is going to be calorie dense for its size. And the last trip I took, it was the weekend after like a weekend or two after Thanksgiving, and so I took no, after Christmas, and so I took a bunch of stuffing and like a gallon bag, mostly full or half full, and same kind of fullness level of turkey meat, and took that and pretty much ate most of it between the night and the next morning. And that was a good choice. It was calorie dense and it gave me what I needed and made me feel happy and secure in my world. And so that would be filling up what's a good chunk of the rest of the space. In addition to my tool bag, which I will also go over in separate, and my first aid bag, and toiletries and first aid, emergency kit bag, which I'll go over in separate, and my bicycle pump, which is a one with a separate cord, which this, not having to be moving the pump around while pumping or worry about it, is very nice. I greatly appreciate it. Only downside is that the valve, the measurement tool is right here on the side. So you have to be able to see it or look at it every once in a while. And this is a Surface I got in my local bike shop. My cats are always interested whenever I'm doing this. So that's that bag. And since I've got them out, here's the first aid bag, a leg wrap, toilet paper, which also doubles as gauze, because gauze just, the containers they come in breaks up really poorly and they end up having a lot of issues. And that essentially, for a lot of first aid type stuff, especially if you're doing it to yourself or somebody that you're close with, it's not super important that it's pristine. And this is my fire starter, wrapped up in some string that apparently is, oh yes, a thread that came, my sewing thread that came loose. So sewing thread is actually also something that I generally keep around that is useful for being able to make repairs to things and fix items and all that, as well as these safety pins that I have for similar kind of repairing purposes. Is an EpiPen that I have for my wife's needs. Nitrile rubber gloves, which are good for being able to make sure that I can take care of myself, or I can have somebody else take care of me without fear of infection. Medical tape, which by itself can work as a bandage most of the time as well, so it's important to remember that. Same kind of thing with duct tape. There's a second ace wrap, which I probably don't need to carry with me as much. And this is what I use for a pressure bandage as needed, which is a one of the stretchy physical therapy kind of rolls. Essentially, the trick that you would do with this is you wrap it around yourself and then make pressure with it, and then just keep wrapping, applying or relieving pressure as you need to. And then when you've gotten done, just shove it underneath in some spot, and you've given yourself a little bit of an extra pressure bandage. Which sounds weird and paranoid, but from experience, you want to be able to do that. So that's that. Compass. My signal mirror, which has started getting to a habit of popping out of its little protective case. This is also great for being able to see if something on you that you can't look at personally is having a problem. And also, of course, good for its actual intended design purpose. Earplugs, great for a lot of places, where animals or people or trains are nosy. These are steri strips, which are essentially little little band-aids that are made for creating temporary sutures that I am quite glad to carry with me. This is liquid bandage, which stings when applying, and you have to blow on it in order to get it to dry, but it is very nice. And yeah, it smells a little bit after you've applied it, but same kind of thing. You take the good with the bad. One of my containers opened up in here, and so that's why I've got a bunch of loose alcohol prep swabs. Generally these go into one of these little pill container type screw-on tops. And that's how that lives. I carry floss. My toothbrush also needs to be replaced in here. The old one got just too old. Neosporin container. A body lotion container. Hand lotion. Which sounds weird, but it's such a nice comfort to be able to just put some lotion on your hands if you're feeling dry. Tweezers. Oral gel cream, which if you get a canker sore on trips is very nice. This is a assortment of pills, which you can tell what most of them pretty much are. Like the blues are ibuprofens, these reds are Dayquils, and then Tums, and there's assorted things in there like Advil, which if you had a sharp eye you might have seen as well. It's a fragment of a bar of ivory soap, and what is normally in here but is on my table at the moment is a set of Vaseline impregnated cotton balls, which are very good for starting fires. Essentially, you just get one going and you can make any fire happen after that. They don't seem to like taking a spark from me. Maybe I'm just incompetent, but that's just what I ended up having to happen. Lighter works a lot better. This is my tool bag, and so this is spare inner tubes, chain lube, bike gloves for working on the bike, electrical tape, Park multi-tool, which I don't believe they actually make anymore, but if you can get one of these, it's burly, but it lasts. It's not it doesn't have problems. Spare rope, a set of quite a few zip ties, tire levers, cassette lock ring tool, patch kit. On tours I carry two. Well, at least I did. Maybe I won't in the future because I never have gotten to fly on a tour yet. Duct tape wrap, thick lube, and a single crescent wrench. I also have, and this multi-tool comes with multiple wrenches, screwdrivers, Allen head keys, chain breaker, and technically tire levers, but they don't work very well. That's essentially the only part of this design that doesn't work very well. These tire levers, they just sort of bend when you put them under the load of a heavy, tight tire. And so that's what those bags are like. Now, last bag. Okay, so now we'll go over the other rear pannier and the last pannier. Another back roller classic. And in addition, these items probably would have gone into this other rear pannier if I were to be actually packing. And this is a REI Rebel Cloud jacket. It's insulated and super lightweight. And if you put this on, it's exceptionally warm. So essentially you could be crashed out someplace and be able to put this on, and it's going to provide you with a lot of extra warmth to be able to help protect you against hypothermia or any other kind of problems. This is Shima that I carry around frequently, and that is useful for quite a few purposes. You make hoodie, you can just use it as a scarf, you can use it for any things you would just use a bolt of cloth for. And this, of course, is the same pants that I put down as being equipment for my summer touring list, which is Columbia travel pants that I very much like. And essentially, if you're wanting to, you can just throw these over the top of the biking pants leggings I was showing you before, to provide just a little bit of extra normalcy looking. and a little bit of extra insulation for while you're hanging around camp and relaxing. And so, here's the items that I carry in this bag, which is more of shelter and heavy duty or emergency kind of clothing. This is what I wear for when it starts getting below about mid-30s. It's a Cold Avenger face mask, and it goes on like this. Now the adjustment that you end up having to make on this, because I put this over the balaclava beanie combo that I showed you earlier, you end up needing to make adjustments on this for tightness to make sure that you can look up while, look forward while pedaling. Just make sure it's loose enough. But this makes breathing in cold air so much better. And this neoprene type fabric that they've got on the outside of this makes for a lot of extra warmth. I've never had to layer up multiple balaclavas when I'm wearing this. Even getting down to low teens and doing so with about, I'd say, probably like 25-mile-per-hour wind, just from bike speed going downhill. This is my wind protection bag, which has an REI Stratus jacket with hoodie. And this jacket, I'd say, is just one of the most versatile pieces of cooler or inclement weather equipment that I've got. Because if you layer things up like what I standardly wear, I can wear this down to like mid-20s with the vest and the cycling jacket in my base layer I was showing you before. If I layered up this with it, I don't think it even gets cold enough here where I would be not too hot wearing this and all the other stuff underneath this. So, very good item to have. And as from here, it's so thick that it essentially becomes like a parka, a shell. And it's got venting, which is very nice. It has rear pockets, but I'm going to be using those because it's hard to get to them in gloves. Essentially, people need to start designing colder or inclement weather biking gear with having giant handly kind of grips, so that it's not this tiny little grabber. But it does have a butt flap, which is quite nice. I don't have anything super nice like a shower pass rain pants yet, but I've got these ones that were part of a kit that I got from my father-in-law that I've appreciated and liked. And in order to make sure that I don't catch them in my chain, I just tie up over the outside of them with shoelaces. I just do it wrapped up, starting here, and just go around like so. And then I just tie it up. And underneath those pants, I wear overshoe covers. These are Gore bike wear, and these are about some of the few things that will actually fit over the outside of my touring shoes because they're not tiny like most cycling shoes, which is what most cycling shoe covers are made for. So you can see these fit, despite the fact that these look like a normal sneaker, and most of these don't fit something like a normal sneaker. And I generally keep it all in a separate little bag. At some point I'll get something lighter weight and to do this with. But to keep mud off of the rest of my stuff, keep moisture off of the rest of my stuff, and just to keep it all organized in one place. So that's all of those. These are my tent stakes that I use with my hammock camping, which I'll get to in a second. This is my loose fleece balaclava, which I wear when sleeping. I've been out in 20s, probably low 20s, a couple, like low digit 20s, a couple times. And if you're wearing this with the balaclava I was showing you earlier underneath it, you'll feel, like if you reach up and touch the back of your head, you'll feel frost and ice having started to form on the outside from the venting. It's quite nice. And a good idea to make sure to remember while you're on your trip. This is a Warbonnet camping hammock, which is so incredibly nice in warm weather and just generally very comfortable. I've been experimenting with doing this all season, in multiple seasons. And this is what I've been doing my winter camping with so far this year. And with the equipment I've been showing you so far, I didn't use any other kind of sleeping pad other than the Gossamer Gear one I showed you earlier, and I was quite comfortable in this. It's the War Bonnet Blackbird, and so plenty of reviews on that. So if you feel the need, you can look that up, or you can just ask me to if you want to. This is very nice because it's got openings on both ends, so it's very easy to just string up the hammock on one side of the tree, then unspool it, then attach on the other side of the tree without ever touching the ground. And once you get the knack for it, it takes less than 5 minutes to do. This is my Superfly tarp, which is a tarp which is not tiny, but it's a very light fabric, and it has doors, and I just really appreciate the fact of something very sturdy when camping. This is also from War Bonnet, and it's got guy out lines on the guy out tie outs on the side too, as well as 2 doors, and it's not as lightweight as other tarps could be, but it's sturdier and has more coverage, which I very much want. And I'd have to experiment to find that I'm comfortable with something less. And Thermarest Neo Air X-Lite, which I've talked about before on videos. And I brought this last time as a backup, just in case the foam wasn't good enough, but this worked. Like, I didn't need to bring this out on the last sub 25 degree trip. And not 25 below zero, but sub 25 degrees above zero. And yeah, this, I'll get to it another time, but in hot weather, this is amazing. You just don't get hot like you do in a tent. And in all weather, it's very comfortable because it feels like you're just sort of gently rocking in where you're sleeping, as opposed to lying on hard rock and even through a sleeping pad. And in addition to that, just on the bike, I'll show you. Make sure that you've got fenders and lights, and you're going to be pretty well taken care of with all of that. And so, I hope this is useful for people, and as always, if you have questions or comments, just let me know and I'll try to answer them. So, thanks.